Hello everyone, and welcome back to another week of the Backlog Bunker. This week, the only game I played with anything of note was Yakuza 8, and unfortunately, it's all negative this week. The first one is super unfortunate because it's a positive that has become a negative. I previously praised Yakuza 8 for including arrows that show you where you launch enemies, but the further I get along in the game, the more I start to notice that sometimes the arrows actually just don't matter. Either the enemy doesn't get launched the arrow shows, or they do get launched the arrow shows, but the arrow effects don't happen, like hitting walls or other teammates. And to be the most fair, I can't tell if it's a universal thing or if it just happens with Chitose, because I have her with the hula dancer job. And with that job, it hits like a billion times before it actually ends up launching, and a lot of the times it seems like Chitose moves out of her own way to launch enemies. So it might be a problem specific to that job, or it might just mean that I've only noticed it with that job. And the other thing to mention was about Dondoko Island, which, as anyone who's played Yakuza 8 will know, is mostly due to the fact that the game forces you into it. Of course, this isn't the first time Yakuza has ever forced you into a minigame, but this might be the worst minigame in relation to how much you're forced to do it. Firstly, the combat part of it is unbelievably boring, and for some reason doesn't use like the normal Yakuza combat, which they could have done, because, spoilers for later in the game, but Kiryu has an ability that lets him just do action game stuff instead of a turn-based RPG. So they have normal Yakuza fighting in the game, they just didn't use it for Dondoko Island, I guess. And the rest of it's boring because it's just discount Animal Crossing New Horizons. Which, by the way, they really struck that iron while it was white hot, didn't they? An entire, 4 years late on Animal Crossing, and they're like, hey guys, we have a whole Animal Crossing minigame in Yakuza. And that's about as far as it goes for normal Gavin gaming this week, because now the weekly topic is about the state of play, or as I call it, the state of lame. Not because it was a bad presentation, mind you, but just because I don't really have much to say about what was shown off. Like, I'm sure Silent Hill fans are really hyped about Silent Hill F, but I don't give a shit about Silent Hill. It looks cool, but I don't give a shit, you know? To bullet point through all the really small things I had to say, I sure hope that Suda51 and Grasshopper have learned how to make an action game in the last 5 years, because No More Heroes 3 was not very good, and was shovelware quality in terms of actual production. Bloodstained looks cool, as all those games do, but here's hoping this one isn't a Metroidvania so I can actually play it. I had planned on emulating Final Fantasy Tactics, but I'm more than willing to buy like an actual copy of the game, if it doesn't cost $50. Neo 3 looks cool, and I have both of the other two games for free on Epic, so like, I have no reason not to start playing them. Tides of Tomorrow looks cool, but I wonder if it's going to be a Deathloop situation where the concept is betrayed horribly by the execution. And I'm really hoping that 007 is more stealth than action, or at the very least a healthy balance of the two without any like Uncharted level cinematic fuckery. You know, the shit the Insomniac Spider-Man games have, where there are cutscenes but you can't really skip them. So on a first playthrough they're just really boring because you can tell that they're not like actual gameplay, and then on repeat playthroughs they're really boring because they lose all the cinematic flair and they're still not gameplay. You know, stuff like that. And at the end of it all, the PS5 still has no games. Because I'm a horrific procrastinator, while I was recording this, I saw that Stellar Blade was on Steam, which means that the PS5 has one less exclusive now, actually. What's even left at this point? Astrobot, Demon Souls, and Ghost of Yotei, which isn't out yet, and going by Ghost of Tsushima is gonna come to PC anyway? Anyway, as for the games I have more substantive thoughts on, the first is Pragmata, which in all honesty, I don't have thoughts on the game itself because it just looks pretty generic to me, but what I do have thoughts on are games that get delayed for 4 years. I've seen a lot of people be really excited about Pragmata, and I don't know why. I can't understand it. Part of me not understanding is because we haven't even had gameplay until just now, so I don't know what people were excited about before now. On top of the fact that the game getting delayed for 4 years should be a sign of something bad to come. Like, yeah, games get delayed for polish or whatever sometimes, right? But 4 years is a very long time. 4 years is not the kind of delay you get with like, oh, we forgot a few bugs. And you know, call me petty or toxic, but I kind of wish that people who get hyped over games that get delayed like this only ever get bad games in return. Because every time a game gets a massive delay and is met with praise, studios will always take the wrong lessons from it. This goes for really any creative property, actually, even movies. Anytime a good thing comes out, always assume the worst case scenario in terms of what lessons will be taken away from it. In cases like delays, it's fine to just lie to people about when the game's gonna come out, because it'll come out eventually. On to the next thing I actually care about, MGS Delta. I'm still pretty worried about it. MGS3 has a lot of moments where you have to commit to either speed or stealth, and as I outlined in my video about Metal Gear Solid, crouch walking fucking ruins that. But something else that was weird about the gameplay was that during the Fear fight, when Snake does a roll, it like goes in slow motion, which I'm hoping is just a trailer thing, because what it looks like is that Snake does a dodge roll, like, away from the Fear's attack, which makes the game go in slow motion, like Witch Time in an action game. And if that is the case, I'm very, very worried about how this game is actually going to play. Because again, as I outlined in my Metal Gear Solid video, the best Metal Gear gameplay is a combination of tactical espionage action. And so what I absolutely do not need in my Metal Gear Solid game are fucking Dark Souls-esque dodge rolls. I'm even worried about the visuals of the game, because the Fury fight looks way brighter in this game than it did in the original. And I'm not sure if you know this, but the Fury fight is supposed to be really fucking dark until there's fire everywhere. Though on a more positive note, I'm happy to finally be a Metal Gear Solid fan at the launch of a Metal Gear Solid game, so I can actually play Metal Gear Solid Online. And finally, Marvel Tokone Fighting Souls. Please, for the love of God, include a proper Gatling system. The Gatling systems in Guilty Gear Zard and Dragon Ball FighterZ are what got me into wanting to play fighting games for real. I have no idea why they decided to remove it from Guilty Gear Strive, but they did. And then for my second request, include a story mode that I can actually fucking play. A story mode is a good excuse to have the player get introduced to, like, handling the game, while giving them a good story on top of that. Does Dragon Ball FighterZ have a good story? Absolutely not. But it gave me an excuse to play a bunch of characters. I think a few too many fighting games are content with just shucking the player off to training mode, and hoping that will engage them with the game, and it never does. And no, arcade mode does not count. And no, Street Fighter World Tour does not count. And no, Guilty Gear cutscenes do not count. I have to be able to actually fucking play the story. Even though I praised Fighters earlier, even that game fucks it up, because only some of the characters that are in the game are even playable in the story. Which, to be fair, would not have made sense with the story, but they could have just written a different story. I say all that to say, please be a good game, Marvel Tokone. Please, please, please. I might have had more to say, but unfortunately Google Docs is a piece of shit that has space limits on comments, and if you type at the top of a comment, it'll automatically delete things at the bottom of a comment with no right to recover them, because even if you restore an earlier version of the document, it won't return an earlier version of the comment. So you just fuck forever if you don't have whatever was in it. That's your Google Docs rant for this week. Get out of here.